Hello YouTube. This is a video response to bran7701. She did a video called 3 Scary Things That Have Happened. Well, the very first one was from when I was a young teenager. Me and a buddy, well, I say young, probably around 8 years old, preteen. One of them was around 8 or 9 years old. I was staying at a buddy's house, and we decided to camp outside in his backyard. So his dad rigged up a tent, out of 2x4s and a sheet with a hole cut in it, kind of like a teepee tent, and then a sheet on the grass for our bed. And we went out there, and then I guess it was about 11 or 12, we got scared and went in the house. And he jumped in his bed, and I made a bed on the floor. Of course, it was hot. It was in the summertime, so we raised the window open to his bedroom. And we were laying there, and we were talking about scary stuff anyway. And the next thing we know, we hear a bunch of ruckus up in the air outside. So we both get up and start to walk towards the window to look out. Well, something swooped down past the window. It looked like a sickle. One of the cutting sickles is what it looked like, thinking back on it now today. And it scared me and him both, so we ran in there and woke up his daddy, and we all went outside. And sure enough, there was a large unidentified flying object, UFO, up in the sky. But the strangest part was, coming out of McIntyre, you could hear about 6 or 7 jets flying towards this thing. And next thing you know, as soon as the thing saw the jets, it took off. And I mean, in a matter of 2 seconds, them jets didn't stand a fair chance in heck of catching it. I mean, it was going out of our sight faster than the speed of light. It was gone. Well, that was the first scary instance in my life. Probably the second one was my dad, and I'm scared to death of snakes. My dad had a tomato stake pile on the other side of the garden, where every year he'd get done with his tomato stakes, and he would take them and pile them all up in a big pile out on the other side of the garden. I think I was about probably 14, 15 when this happened, living down in Florida with him at the time. I left South Carolina and went down there, and he told me to go get a one full of steaks, which I walked down there and I looked at the pile, to make sure there wasn't no snake in it. I reached down there and got me a big old bundle of tomato steaks. Now, granted, I only had to carry them about, from where they were at to the house was about 100 yards, I would say. I'm trying to think back in my mind's eye from that many years ago. No, it was probably 600-700 feet from the, about 600-700, 800, somewhere around in there. Might have been close to a football field length. Well, I picked up that big armful, and I only had to tote them like 60 foot, and lay them down in the garden for him so he could go along and put them up for his new tomato plants. He was over at the hog pen, which is at one end of the garden. So I get to walking through there, with that big old armful. I happen to look down and I see something start slithering. And I could tell it was a snake. I just opened my arms and let them fall, and before I could get the word snake out of my mouth, I hit the back door to the trailer, to the double wide. Face planted into the back door. My dad said he saw me running from the garden. He said I was shooting a rooster tail from my feet through the dirt in the garden. He said that's how fast I was running. He walked over there and saw it was an oak snake and started laughing his butt off at me. That was the second time. Third time I was much older. I was actually living back in South Carolina at the time, where I've been ever since. Excuse me for the coughing. Me and a buddy of mine, we were about 22, 23 years old, and I had my girlfriend in the truck, he had his girlfriend in my truck, and we decided we was going to take them out to a road called Old State Road, Old Dirt Road. A lot of old horror stories off of that dirt road, so we was going to take them out there and scare the two girls, you know. So we went down the dirt road about 2 miles, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and I said, Alan, me and you need to walk down this four-wheel drive trail and see how bad it is, see if we can make it through here in my two-wheel drive Chevrolet. So we jumped out the truck, you know, left the two girls sitting in there, and I didn't take my keys out in the ignition like a dummy. And luckily neither one of the girls could drive my truck because they couldn't figure out how to crank it up. We went up in there about 100 yards up into the trail, you know, to get away from my truck where they couldn't see us. And we rounded this bend. The only thing we had with us was a little flashlight. Well, about another 50 or 60 feet down that trail, there was a log, a tree that had fallen over and was still attached. Big old pine tree had broke off, and it was kind of slanted down to the ground, you know, at a real sharp angle. Well, about halfway up the tree, something was sitting on it. We looked, and then that something dropped its feet to the ground and stood up. It stood over 7-8 foot tall, black with red eyes. Now, South Carolina has had a creature called red eyes for years, more than one of them. And that's all me and Alan could think that was red eyes. So me and him, and this boy can't run that fast, but let me tell you what, Alan can't run that fast, but let me tell you what, we tore off out of there, not as fast as we can run, but as fast as we wanted to run, because whatever that was coming after us. When we hit the edge of the road, we couldn't even stop. I flipped over into the bed of my truck and out the other side. Alan slammed into the passenger door. The girls had done locked the doors, and we're screaming at them to unlock the damn doors. Finally they do. I fire up the truck, and we're facing in the wrong direction. I had to run down, cut a U-turn on this dirt road, and then fly past where we were just at. And it wasn't a bear, because a bear can't run on his hind legs that far. Well, when I finally cut the U and went to going back past that dirt trail, it was sitting at the edge of it, or running at the edge of it, looking at us straight upright like a man. But that thing was 7 or 8 foot tall and had glowing red eyes. So there you go. There's my 3 horror stories for video reply. Thank you. Bye.